Welcome to the Beyond Monogamy preview call. This is Kamala Devi, and today we're going to take an hour-long exploration of what it takes to go beyond monogamy. And first, I just want to acknowledge everyone who's calling in from all over. I know how busy you are. I'm so thrilled that you're showing up, and I want to say that you really deserve this, this time to look at your love life. And I'm going to try to pack in as much as possible into the preview call because I want to give you a taste of what it'd look like to let me mentor you in the full 6-week course to liberate your love life. Let's see. Okay, great. So I'm setting up the call. I see 25 people are calling in, and what I want to do is make a promise to everyone. As we're, by the way, we've got about 250 people signed up for this call, and I know hundreds more will be listening to the recording. So I'm thrilled and want to give you the most for your time right now. And my promise is that you take advantage of the momentum, all of us right here, right now, really looking at our love lives. And I want to see you make the necessary shifts so that you're experiencing more pleasure, that you're really optimizing your connection and you're minimizing the agony or the heartache that it takes sometimes to do the deep relationship work. And so I'm going to give you all the information that you need if you want to go deeper with me. But whether or not you're going to continue that journey with me, I want today to be a seed change so that you can make a commitment. I want to see all people in alternative relationships especially getting the support and the tools that they need to do it with grace. And so that's why I'm holding today's call. And the way the call is going to go, here's a little overview. And so we're going to start off with an opening invocation. I'm going to talk a bit about who I am and why this work is so valuable. And then I'm going to offer you a powerful new look at love. This is, followed up by a metaphor about relationship. And the intention is to really shift your paradigm to relationship itself. So we'll do a little tour through my 6S system for success beyond monogamy. And that I'm going to look at the first 3 S's with you, maybe give you some exercises, and then an invitation to go deeper with me. As I mentioned, I want to tell you how to sign up for the course and give you a discount if you want to sign up early. So the call will wrap up, by my last 3 S's, which is speaking up, sexuality, and spirituality. And then at the end of the call, I'm going to give you some homework. Because I want to see you take these tools and start applying them right away. So if you're ready, I want to begin by presencing ourselves. So make whatever shift you need in your posture, deepen your breath. So I want to really see you stretch or yawn or move your body. And the idea is to kind of shake off the mundane. Especially in the middle of a crazy Friday like this, it's like got to get present. This is actually a holiday. Today is Dia de los Muertos, and I'm Latina, and I'm also a pagan priestess. Regardless of what your spirituality is, because I'm actually poly-denominational. I'm not non-denominational. I'm polytheist. So I love to celebrate and take advantage of any opportunity to realize that we're spirits in body. And it's doubly special right now because it's Samhain, which in the pagan tradition is a time in which the veil is thin between the material world and the spirit world. And I don't know about you, but Halloween's just a really wild, shadowy, amazing time. And so I want to just close our eyes, take a few breaths, whatever meaning you want to bring to your breath. And the intention here is to drop into a deeper connection with the heart the deep heart, not just the beating pump. I want you to let go of your concepts of love, let go of your resistance to doing this or feeling that or what's going on for you. And when I say let go, I mean welcome it in. So if you're feeling resistance to doing an invocation or to just feeling your heart right now because you know it's hard to slow down or you don't have time, then invite that resistance in. Like offer it a cup of tea. Like this moment right now, I want you to feel what's real. And with 3 breaths, we're going to call in the highest frequency of love that you can authentically access. So as you breathe, love in, love out. And now, you know, that we're present, we're going to activate our listening from love, our looking through love. It's as if all of our senses are just plugged right into the heart so that you can take these teachings in through a truer, more essential part of yourself. So, welcome back. I want to begin by sharing a little bit about myself and why I want to do this work with you. My name is Kamala Devi, and I prefer to use my full name, Kamala Devi. I'm a mother, which is really present for me because I took my son trick-or-treating last night. We live by the beach in San Diego, and we just, you know, we went house to house. It was just really sweet, a really sweet family scene. And I did that with my beloved partner of 11 years. That's Michael, and he and I share about a dozen lovers, and we live in like a community that's really committed to transformation and experimentation. I have to admit, like, this life of mine has turned out to be quite a laboratory. You know, I'm an author and a coach in sex and relationship, but we're constantly putting on events or trying new things with our relationships. We're really pioneering stuff. And we've been all over the press lately. You probably know that my family and I have been in 2 seasons of the show Polyamory, Married and Dating, which, by the way, I don't have TV, but today our show was featured. There was clips on The View, daytime TV, and they showed a clip of the Hollywood family fighting, you know, this real kind of challenging picture of what's hard about polyamory. There's that edge where a lot of people are in polyagony. And one of the biggest pieces of feedback I've gotten this season is the contrast between this family who stumbled into polyamory and is just, you know, really trying to work things out and really challenged by it, and our family who's been doing conscious, systematic work for so many years. And like I said, it's a laboratory. We've been experimenting, what works better, tweaking it. And I'm really committed to sharing the results of our laboratory. You know, I used to think that relationship was an art and, we're making it up as we go along. And it was really challenging. And then when we started putting it on TV, I started to see it through a whole new light. And I didn't want people to go through the same mistakes and challenges that I went through. I was like, can't we shortcut this? In fact, I felt irresponsible. It's like those stunt people that do these dangerous stunts and they say, don't try this at home. You know, it's terrifying to me after the show to get all these letters from people who are like damaged by polyamory or open relationships. You know, all of the feedback about how people are doing it poorly. And I mean, you probably know people who are afraid of commitment or lying or sneaking around, and they say that they're in open relationships, and they're really just giving non-monogamy a bad name. And I think it's just important to kind of presence ourselves to that, because there are wrong ways to do open relationship. It's not just like anything goes. And there's much better ways of doing it. And, you know, I just feel like people In fact, I get a lot of criticism for what I teach, and somebody just yesterday was saying that, oh, Beyond Monogamy, the name of this course is even a put down to monogamy. And I want to share that this is not like anti-monogamy propaganda. I am definitely pro-polyamory, but I'm not anti-monogamous. I wouldn't be anti-monogamous any more than I would say, I'm anti-heterosexual. And I don't think polyamory is more evolved than monogamy any more than I think being gay or lesbian is more evolved than being straight. But I do think that we should question monogamy, just as we should question heterosexuality or any cultural norm. Like whenever there's a standard, you question it. And in that inquiry, in that investigation of self, if you ultimately decide to be monogamous, that's beautiful because it's a decision out of power and it's not out of ignorance or default. And if after questioning it you realize, well, I'm not monogamous, it's not an easy path to open your relationship because it's not the standard issue container. And anytime we go beyond the norm, we have the burden of really having to do the work ourselves. And so I'm going to talk more about the standard issue container in a moment, but I do want to empower you to do the deeper work. This call to go beyond monogamy is, I'm super committed to shortcuts and to structures and making it as simple as possible, but I don't want to delude you in thinking that I have a quick pill. I would love to be able to, snap my fingers and make it easy, but I think that the practices that I'm offering are ultimately much more rewarding than just avoiding the work. So, I want to inspire you around why you'd be willing to do this work. I want you to get on the same page as I am, why I'm so passionate about liberating my love life. And I think it's not just the individual life calling, it's like everybody's opportunity to love more. Personally, I have a family member. My grandfather died when he was 95. And of course, it's a beautiful age to pass at. And I'm nostalgic because we actually buried him on Dia de los Muertos. And he was a really wealthy man. He was a workaholic, actually. And he spent a lot of his time working and not fostering his family or his, partnership. Although he was in a marriage for over 70 years. That's amazing. But on his deathbed, he was reflecting on his life, and he got really clear that what matters most is relationship. And to hear somebody whose life was not oriented around relationship at all, who put, product or profit first sometimes, was surprising. But it was very real. Now, I believe in balance. I think relationship and love is so essential. But I also, I'm committed to making a contribution in the world, and I want to see, my friends and lovers be healthy and prosperous, and I want to work on the environment. I do believe, though, that when our love life is off, we don't have nearly as much time, energy to focus on, making greater contribution that it really does take away from. Like our love life is our foundation, and I want to see people really nurtured at that level so that they can go off and do, more beautiful work in the world. So that brings us to this lie that I think is happening in our understanding in society, and just it's like the lie of separation that happens that no one's really talking about, and it's what is love. See, love is not what you think it is. It can't possibly be what you think it is, because we think from the mind, and love comes from this other place. And Hollywood, Disney, Hallmark, like all of our programming leads us to believe that love might be like a magical fireworks show that we just surrender to, or maybe it's the glue that holds us together for so many years. But there's a huge emphasis on like love is this what we do or say or earn, or it has to be built or it has to be bought. But the truth is that you are love. It's not just that we already have love, it's that it is our very essence. Like we are love. And so what happens when we really change the focus of love from outside actions to our essential nature is that we can't lose love, nor can we earn it. It's a practice of uncovering it more and more, revealing our essence and revealing the essence of others. But there's an enormous paradigm shift that happens in all of our relationships when we no longer are seeking to get love or give love like a transactional exchange from other people. And it creates so much ease. It's like a chiropractic adjustment when we get that we are love. And, sometimes we meet someone for a variety of reasons or circumstances or just timing, and they reflect our essence back so brightly that we have that experience of falling in love. And sometimes it's that we have to do those practices, to continue to think and say and do loving things. But that's not where love actually resides. It's our nature. And so I want to take that shift and bring it further with this metaphor. So we have a standard issue container I mentioned. What this looks like is a society that says love, there's a narrative of, you're dating and then you are engaged and then you get married and trying to make that marriage, till death do you part. Like this is the standard scripting. And of course, we've awakened to most marriages. About half, some are failing and people get into serial monogamy after that. And I'm really, by the way, I'm really clear that everybody on the call has already awoken from this dream. And there's a rising, huge, growing demand and awareness around liberating ourselves into, whatever our full expression is of love, and it doesn't have to look like marriage and, and family or serial monogamy. So I'm really proud of all of the pioneers that showed up today to look at what's beyond that. But what helps us when we're not that standard issue is to have the empowering tools to recreate our own reality. And this metaphor has helped me tremendously. Okay, if the standard issue is this container, right, of marriage, I like to look at, in my deep contemplation of what love is, I like to look at it as like this infinite wellspring within us. So it's like this liquid, and it doesn't have a form. It just flows. And relationship itself is the container to hold the love. And the standard issue container, as I mentioned, might look like maybe it's a swimming pool. It's got a certain size and it's defined, and you're not supposed to go outside of it. And but we're, as alchemists, we get that the liquid, sometimes it dries up. And we see a lot of people in empty marriages where they've got a swimming pool, but there's not a whole lot of water in there. And then we've also had experiences in other relationships where it's like you just meet someone and maybe there's a cup, you just met them, and then the liquid is just overflowing. There's more love than you can actually hold in that small relationship, and it's time to start building, a bigger container for more love if you mutually want to co-create that. And so I wanted to contrast that some relationships are very defined, with clear boundaries, and we're dating, it has this rules, and this is what the container looks like. And other relationships are undefined, and they can be really messy and really wet and really it's you don't know when you're going to hear from someone, or you don't know how they feel about you, and there's a lot of kind of messiness and leaking of that love energy. And one of the things that I want to empower everyone to do is to be a master at creating the container that's appropriate for the love that's right relation between you and whomever you're relating to. And you get to decide how much love you want to cultivate, how much you want to share. And you can upgrade your relationship to build bigger containers, or you can downgrade. You can just be like, oh, let's de-escalate because it's not flowing for us. And that you don't have to necessarily throw everything out the way that in monogamy we see people break up, and it's like they never hear from each other again. They cut things off, and it's like literally throwing the baby out with the water metaphor, right? So the important thing is that you're not only in charge of co-creating, and you're responsible for co-creating your own relationships, but you're also in that artistry of, or maybe it's more science of, creating the containers that work. And that's a constant shifting process if you want to stay alive and connected to the people you love. And the course, that I'm offering, and some of the tools that you'll get today are really about how to manage that, navigate that, do that clearly, efficiently, so that you're not, wasting time, energy, leaking, your love, but you have kind of systems for creating relationships that work. And, I used to think of it like an art, like basket weaving. We're weaving baskets of different sizes. But lately, I'm getting, because I'm contrasting my family with all of the people who don't have the systems, that it's way more like a science where, you're actually finding the appropriate beakers or containers, or and I love the experimentation, and there are results that that are repeatable, that will be, give you effective, more happiness and basically shortcut disasters of processes. So ultimately, though, all these metaphors, whether it's a basket or a beaker or a teacup or a thimble, these metaphors are just pointing at the moon. This concept of relationship as liquid it's not the map. It's not the actual territory. It's just like a little map. And the real juice is when you're in the direct, boundless experience of love, not in what you think love is. And so, what does this mean practically? So when you're beyond the standard script, and you're responsible for creating your relationships the way you want them to be, it's up to you to say, like, well, how often do we talk? Like, in person, by phone, emailing, text, like, what's really appropriate? And most of the breakdowns that people have in relationship are when, on different areas of our lives, there's unmet or unmatching expectations. So a big part of your power comes from really co-creating appropriate expectations and then managing those so that you don't have breakdowns around that. So it's like, how long do we meet? What is the content of the container like in the connections? What do we do when we get together? What hobbies do we share? What practices? And this all applies to, of course, to making love. Like, when you're making love, like, how long do you like to make love for? What's the foreplay look like? How about afterwards? And who do you tell about your love making? Who else, how much do you tell when there's other people involved? And all the juicy details of that is very case specific. And you want to outline that so that you're doing it appropriate to who you are and how you like to make love. And that's the key. You're not doing any of this to people please. You're not doing this because this is, not just what society says you should be doing, but what you think you need to do in order to maintain somebody else's love or get love from them, because ultimately you're in the practice of knowing who you are and designing your love life around your essence. So let's just take a quick inventory of where you're at. I know there's like hundreds of people on the call, which is super exciting. I'm also aware that we're recording it now, and there's lots of people who'll be listening to it, talking to our future lovers. And no matter where you are or where you come from, you're in you have a relationship constellation. I like to either look at it like a constellation or a web. And some of those relationships you might just be starting. Like you're just, meeting and sniffing around and getting to know each other. So you might be in a new relationship energy, which is super exciting, intoxicating. And you might be sustaining. I mentioned I've got a 10 or 11-year partnership. And you might be in that practice of like, oh, how do we get the spark back? Or it's just practices to keep the relationship present and not in our resentments and history. And that sustaining relationship is very different from when you're de-escalating, or maybe you decide that it's not bringing as much light into the world as it used to, and it's time to untangle. And so I wanted to say that this is the natural order of life itself. There's the generating, the operating, and then the destruction of everything in life. And in relationship, that phase of starting a new relationship, sustaining it, and separating could happen if you're a serial monogamous once at a time, or if you're in multiple relationships, you could be doing simultaneous beginnings, and then meanwhile you're separating. And in fact, I am. I'm currently in this de-escalating process with two very dear lovers, and I'm also, Rachel just moved in with us, and there's a lot of excitement about starting that new relationship. And so, how to navigate this natural order of things when it's magnified by multiple partners can get complex if you don't have systems. And in fact, the more complex any system is, the more structure it needs. Again, back to that science. But truly, if you have one partner, you have a lot more bandwidth to really make it up as you go along. When you have multiple partners, it's just like, okay, we need a system for all this. And so I want to bring our attention to some of those systems. And if you're in front of a computer, I do suggest you go on to beyondmonogamy.com so you can look at the curriculum. On the curriculum, you'll see that the first week is starting. The first 3 weeks we're going to talk about together: starting, sustaining, and separating. I'm a wordsmith, and I love, just playing with the S's, and these are my 6 S's for success in Beyond Monogamy. But what's important here is, in any and all stages of the relationship, they have those different phases, have their different kind of needs and systems, but that throughout you stay self-connected, you stay radically responsible for being in love, and you're not looking at that new lover to bring it for you, or the love is dying out with with my marriage, and and it's like you're disappointed in them. It's really about you being in your essence, and the separation then can be from a place of, well, this person, I want them to be in their full essence, and this relationship isn't nurturing that, and so I can be more aligned with saying goodbye. So being that self-connection is the kind of uber teaching, I want to dig in a little bit and say that in the starting of the relationship, there's an inherent insecurity. And it's okay that when we're, all a Twitter with like the Twitter pated with exciting new hot chemistry, and that curiosity about who this person is can often short circuit, perhaps even affect our other relationships. But how valuable it is in that practice of starting a relationship to set it up so that it's sustainable for and enhancing to your other relationships as well. And I really want to, to encourage people to look at only adding relationships that will enhance and bring value to your current ecosystem. And that's a good criteria about, whether the person has what it takes to date you or whether you have what it takes to date somebody who might be in a polyfamily and it's your first relationship. It's like, is it enriching to everyone? Because the other uber rule to all of this is do no harm. Like we really want to practice more love and not more pain. And so, in week 1, we really go into details about, dating and flirting openly and where to go and, what the poly and open relationship scene looks like. But it's important to build a foundation of some basic ground rules. And the starting conversation really is about partner selection. It's a real inventory of compatibility. And that's, I'm telling you right now, if you want to avoid, heartache and frustration, it's very much about who you choose to co-create with. If you're on this call because you're like, oh, I want to hear what Kamala Devi says so that I can change my partner. I want to reduce our arguing because I really want to change who they are. I'm going to say you've wasted your time. That's not what this is about. And nor are you ever going to be satisfied or they'd be satisfied if they're changing to please you. A big part of this, however, does encourage sustainable evolution. Once we have certain basic understandings of how relationship works, we can shift our value systems and get more aligned with, who we really are. And the irritating, annoying shit that you used to feel like was dire, agitation to the relationship, a lot of that falls away when we really start to cultivate not only, our sense of self in a relationship, but also a real clear sense of standards. And I'll say that within these first 3 weeks, we create boundaries and standards and agreements that let you shine. Because truly that container that I talked about weaving is woven from the fabric of your agreement field. Like you get to co-create it by how you want to be treated. And the types of agreements that you make in a starting relationship is very different than what it looks like when you're sustaining. And just to give you context, starting relationship can be anything from you're just dating and feeling out the scene all the way to 2 years in. I just celebrated my 2-year anniversary with Roxanne, and she and I, there's a very hot new relationship energy that's present for us. We're very much in love. And she just started a new relationship that has kind of taken that place because she's in a brand new relationship. I'm like, whoa, I'm transitioning from a starting new relationship. Now we're actually 2 years later, sort of starting to set the relationship up for more sustainability. And it's a different role. And it's like, how do we, build that container so that we have equal expectations because her hot new energy is with somebody else right now. And there are times when that shifts back and forth. But I do want to say that the agreements are very different too when you decide that love is eternal, like the form changes, but the love is eternal. What happens then when you want to separate out of romantic or intimate relationship? And that's when in week 3 we get into exit strategies. And, I think whether or not you do the course with me, I want to give you some tools that you could practice yourself and start applying. And it's important at whatever stages, multiple stages, because this doesn't just apply to your romantic and sexual relations. You've got coworkers, you've got kids, you've got family members, and these relationships all have their own cycles to them, and they also have their own agreements and boundaries. Usually agreements and boundaries are unconscious, And we don't even realize that they're there until somebody breaches them or breaks them, and then it's like, ouch, that's there. And then what happens is either you go into a repeating pattern of bumping your head against that boundary again and again, and it's just like creating scar tissue, which a lot of us can self-reflect and be like, wow, okay, I can see this pattern. It's not just in this relationship, but it's in the 10 prior relationships. And what I want, real conscious, awakened, enlightened relations is to say, wow, when we hit a boundary, we pause, we feel into that, we look at how to open that door instead of a wall, or we set it up so that we're not going to hit that again. But I'm not interested in repeating patterns. And the way to do that is by communicating and creating agreements. And so what I want for you in this call is to look at some of the bottom lines that you have. And what a bottom line is a boundary that if crossed, it's like a deal breaker. I mean, the kind of standard ones, and I'll give you some real clear examples that are tried and true in my relationship, which is honesty. Somebody lies to me, that's a real cause for inquiry. Honesty is a big one. There's a whole teaching I have around it. But basically, if someone's lying to me, something's broken in our relationship, and I'm obviously not making it safe enough for that person to really tell the truth. And we need to look at, I need to look at my part in co-creating that for sure. But what needs to be shifted because something's broken. And that doesn't mean the relation, that it's a deal breaker. But if it's a pattern, for sure it is a deal breaker. Safe sex is another bottom line, and for me that means that all penetrative sex is with condoms, and I mean like heterosexual penetrative, or I personally use condoms on my sex toys as well. But the point is you have to define specifically what safe sex means for you, and to be really clear about communicating that, and then. No drama, or, I'm just not interested in ongoing unnecessary pain and people not taking responsibility, and I have a whole teaching about that as well. But I'm just giving you some examples of some of my bottom lines. I want you to go inside, self-reflect, and journal about what are the recurring problems that come up in your relationship, and what are those deal breakers that, like, hey, this is what I cannot stand and or I can't work with, and if you've got a long distance relationship, it has very different bottom lines, and if it's somebody you're living with versus someone you just met, and overall, this kind of inquiry is super valuable, whether or not you're even in a relationship, but for you to really look at what you need to feel self-connected and to feel safe. And it's a really responsible thing to do. In fact, I get concerned if I meet a lover who doesn't have their boundaries clear. It's like a red flag. It's like, wow, this person's not very self-aware. They're not doing their own work. And if you don't like the word boundaries, I know a lot of free spirits don't. I think a real upgrade to that is standards. What are your personal standards around relationship, so it doesn't feel like you're inhibiting anyone else's expression. So the key here, that's one practice, and then there's the next step of how to actually communicate that to your partners, because you want, with clarity and compassion, to get those boundaries across, and so that doesn't feel like they're just rules. You want to actually create agreement where both parties can negotiate or have some say, or multiple parties, if not, if more than one. And this is really a dance, an ongoing conversation. And I suggest that happens, that it's not like, oh, we're going to sit down and decide on all this. It's like, no, we're going to start a conversation that actually gets evolved through revisiting that conversation periodically. And way more on how to create agreements and lots of examples in the course. But as an important foundational piece, I think that needed to be said. I do want to give you another practice in a moment to keep the love levels high and to keep this fun, because a lot of times when people say, oh my gosh, I have to get out my pencil and start to look at my bottom lines, it feels like not just homework, but like, am I being punished? There's some kind of pain associated with doing this type of what seems almost cold or legal. And there's ways to shift this. There's for me, if a partner wants to talk about the relationship, it's like the greatest honor. Like, I'm truly humbled by, like, they are so in love, like, with themselves, with me, that they want to create more ease. And here's an opportunity to support them so that our relationship can shine, so they can shine in the relationship and I can shine. And I'll give you practice in a moment. But I wanted to mention that it's important to be in perfect percentages. I like, again, playing with words, and I have these 3 Ps. Regardless of the type of relationship that you're in or relationships, you want there to be a balance between how much process you're doing, which is what I'm talking about. Like, hey, let's process the relationship. Or if jealousy comes up, or if, whatever, when you're meta-communicating and talking about the relationship is really what I mean by processing. And sometimes the process is internal and it's not even with another partner. But when you're working on it, that's the processing. And that P is different than when you're playing. And I think it's so important to have this beautiful balance of, like, let's get together and actually, play. Whether that's a party or a dance, or, let's go down to the beach or camping, like just enjoying each other's company. And it's so valuable to, like, not have a relationship be weighted down by only process. And then I'm a believer, and I have seen this, that there's some degree of practicing together. Now, what your practice is can vary greatly, but, if a relationship is just play and it's just process, that's nice. And somewhat, like, fun, but auxiliary to your life's work and what you're here for. So for me, practice, I love to work with my partners. Michael and I, we have to practice parenting. We've got to roll up our sleeves sometimes and do that work together, putting him to bed, or, just there's all these really sweet ways to actually practice love. And we parent really well together, but there's other lovers, and I'll say, Roxanne and I, we do a lot of events and holding space and teaching others together, and that, it's great that we make mad love when we're alone, and that we can talk about it really powerfully, but then what are we doing for the world? And, maybe if you're not such an activist and you're not so cause-driven, the fact is Roxanne and I do yoga together, or sometimes we do, meditation or ritual. Like, these are practices. And for other people, it doesn't look like this at all. It just means, like, hey, we're actually just keeping a home or making dinner together. But there's got to be a balance where the relationship isn't apart from your life. So I wanted to introduce that P percentage, because I find a lot of people come to me in crisis when their percentages are off, and it's like, whoa, you guys are just playing. Of course you are going to crash and burn at some point because you had no process behind any of it. All right. The big practice to make it fun is called an appreciation shower, and I'm going to hold that for after I give you an invitation, okay? As promised, I want to tell you everything you need to know to continue doing this course with me. So I want to paint a little picture, what I know, and I feel very confident about it because I'm not only practicing it myself, and I have to just brag for a moment. As soon as I, told people I was going to relaunch Beyond Monogamy, and I, by the way, had a huge waiting list, and everybody's been asking me, when are you going to relaunch it? And I did, and the first people who signed up were my friends and lovers. And I was like, come on, really? Why are they, like, it was just a surprising thing. Like, I relaunched it, and, like, my lovers, like Roxanne, and I'm like, why are they? And when I checked in, it's because, oh yeah, it's this course is the culmination of what we've been experimenting, and these are our foundations that need to be reviewed and practiced in order for success. And so the huge validation for me is just like, oh yeah, I know as we did last season, and I had over 100 people in this course, I got to see their lives transform. And what that looked like is they rose above a lot of the irritations and frustrations that their relationships used to bring up. And I also saw people, when deep, like challenging issues came up, that they started to listen to their partners without attachment, without, like that neediness. And so they saved a lot of time and energy by moving into right relation with people. Maybe that looked like, and it's hard, but it's like without attachment, you might move into seeing somebody less, or seeing somebody more who's really enriching your life. And you'll get the tools on how to handle difficult conversations. And I already mentioned, like we're going to shortcut some processes, but I don't want you to be saying stuff that you are going to later regret or that's damaging to any of your relationships. I'm going to teach you how not to make that mistake. There's also a strong sense of community and support along the way. I mean, really, truly one of the biggest benefits of this course is really being able to engage with like-minded people and hear what they're doing, learn from their mistakes, and then see yourselves very differently. So, the people who excel at the class are going to be setting their love life up, to live their wildest fantasies and to be having like threesomes or play parties that they never thought were possible. And that's really rewarding for me, is just like a 6-week course, and the result is like a whole new love life. And that happens for some people, and for other people it's like, I just need these foundations and then I'm going to start dating, because it really does cross-apply to any type of relationship you're in. But the way the class itself looks is you're going to attend 6 55-minute live calls with me, and I've got like rich curriculum every call. You're going to do weekly assignments, and we're I know you're really busy, so I try to be very essential, and the assignments might take like an hour. I'm asking for like 1 hour per week, like 6 hours of homework. And for some people, they put tons of time into it, and some people, they can knock it out in a half hour. But there's also like home play assignments, because it's not just all work. We're going to have some fun. There's a private members only area, and online support and community communication there, and that's a nice way to engage and to report your homework and how you did each week. But most importantly, because I know how busy you are, is that you're going to have lifetime access to the recording. So there's a library. If you miss a call because life is happening, you're never actually missing a call. You'll have access to that, and that's so valuable. So the entire course is $397 for that course. And the one thing, I don't even have this written down on all my marketing because it's so new and I'm so excited about it. So I'm telling you for the first time that this time, and my last members didn't get this, and the course has been revamped since, but you're going to get a booklet. And that booklet is, I'm working on it now. By the end of the class, you'll get a booklet, which is going to just keep me accountable, getting these very important teachings on the page with all the, the exercises, et cetera. And so the course itself is $397, as I mentioned, which is a deal for a group coaching course like this, especially, since I'm $300 an hour for private coaching and mentorship. So I thought that I would offer a special today, and I'd like to reward people for taking action early. And so for the course is going to start in a week, and if you sign up before the course starts, then I'm offering $100 off. So I want you to, consider all of this at $297, and that, like I said, that's like 6 weeks of instruction, which is about the same as what it would cost to have an hour with me. And lots of people, I know will be signing up for the class after the recording just to get the recording and the booklet, and that's going to be $397. You're getting $297 for the live course, and people will be paying $397 for the recordings. So I really want to see you take advantage of that. Go to beyondmonogamy.com to sign up. And I know that a lot of you in the call have already signed up, and I'm excited to work with you. And the first thing that you're going to be sent is 50 questions. It's a self-assessment to see if you have what it takes to go beyond monogamy. And that's a powerful assessment that you'll take at the beginning of the class, and then you'll take it again at the end of the class, and you'll get to see how much you've shifted in 6 weeks. It's going to make a big difference in your whole come from. So that and many other bonuses I'm not going to get into now, but I really do look forward to working with you on that. And as promised, I want to dive into the appreciation shower. This tool is so simple and yet elegant, like profound, like really effective. And this appreciation shower, I typically teach it in week 4, which is about speaking up. And I wanted to just mention, too, that week 5 is sexuality and week 6 is spirituality. It really gives a profound and holistic container for all the work that we're doing. But the speaking up practice, or the appreciation shower practice, is where, whether your love levels feel like they're running down, or you're really tapped into your essence, this practice will get you into the flow of that wellspring. If you sit down with a beloved, and honestly, if you're not in a relationship, you can do this with a family member or a friend, and it will just raise your vibration and make you more attractive. And recently, Michael, Rachel, and I have been doing this in 3-way, so it's really fun to sit in triads or groups and do appreciation showers all around the circle. But the way it works is very much about getting into your heart. You sit down and you set a time frame. And that time frame is a minimum of 10 minutes. It might be like, hey, let's do a 10-minute kind of quickie, and you'll be astounded at how much juice you get from that. Or it could be like up to an hour, especially if you have like a group and you really want to create bonding and deeper connections. Now, the practice itself is simple. I might start by telling Michael something I appreciate about him is how generous he is. Like when people come over to our home, he's always like, my stuff is your stuff, and he buys extra, fruit and food just because he wants to feed guests all the time. Like he's just really generous. And he would take that in, no cross-talking, and say thank you. Then Michael might tell me that one of the things that he loves about me is how I see the world like an artist. Like he really likes my creativity and my unique lens on what I'm looking at. And he said that the other day to me. It touched me so much. And I just said thank you, because I wasn't allowed to, cross-talk. And then I would take a breath, and I might say something about his sex, how I appreciate how evergreen he is for me, that 11 years into the relationship, he still gets really hard and really excited about, just when I'm changing my clothes and that makes me feel beautiful. And I appreciate that about him. And he says, thank you. And then we go back and forth like this. And it can be of every area of the life. It can be sexual and about, how you share space, or how that person makes you feel, or what you think, or maybe you overheard something about them, or, how they look in a certain outfit. And there's no wrong answer. It's just coming from love, and it's unconditionally positive. And it's not one of those qualifier, like, oh, let me bring up a problem and couch it in positive energy. And the reason that we do this, as we go back and forth, it's so profound. I'm going to tell you 3 quick reasons, but they're infinite, really. The first is, when you're managing multiple relationships, there's a default programming to compare. And as a practice, don't compare. Don't compare yourself to other lovers. Don't compare yourself to, to your partner, to your other lovers. But the way to not compare is when we start recognizing that every person is as unique as a snowflake, that there's no replacement for how extraordinarily irreplaceable, amazing every person is. And so when we do appreciation showers, we're anchoring in that you are seen and appreciated and special for who you are, and that you're accepted. And this goes so far. And it's almost like a prevention to jealousy. and I have to, what's fun that you'll get to know about me is that I am a really intensely passionate person who has a lot of jealousy issues. And I might look at Michael's new girlfriend and be like, she's such a free spirit. And I have felt like, oh, I'm so deep and complex, and how could I ever compare? But when Michael appreciates me for who I am, not for qualities that, are very unique and different, he appreciates her for, I feel like security, like, oh, I love that he loves her for her freeness, and I love that he loves me for who I'm showing up to be, and if I change, that he loves me still. So I just want to say that it creates security and prevents jealousy. The other reason, third reason I wanted to say is this practice will heal in processing. There's sometimes a lot of difficult things that we have to say, and the way the mind works is when you take one negative piece of feedback, even if it's constructive, you take that feedback, and it's like it doesn't get canceled out by an appreciation or positive. It actually takes about 10 positive things before you feel neutral. It's just the way our reticular activating system is that we need a lot of positive reinforcement. And so the appreciation shower is a great way not just to sandwich, hey honey, I want to try this new practice, or this isn't working for me, which is a real important part, of being honest and speaking up, is being willing to speak when our needs aren't, being met. And to counter that with a flood of positivity makes it easy for us to actually adjust our behavior for the positive. It helps us evolve. So it's a profound practice, and I give it to you now because it's something that you can practice right away. You can take it with you independent of the other teachings and do it in any setting. And I suggest you do, but I know it's not the only thing that you got out of this call. So I want to ask you what the most valuable thing is that you got out of our call today. And I want to charge you with the challenge, if you should accept it. Your mission is to apply something right away. And so I want you to just take a moment to reflect on, how we talked in the beginning about the shift of love is something that you give or get, to love is what you are, and the metaphor of creating containers and the self-examination of whether you're starting relationships, sustaining them, separating, really where you're at, and maybe doing the practice of doing your bottom lines and your boundaries and communicating those, to the appreciation shower that we just closed on. Of all of this, I want you to choose one thing that was most valuable for you, and I want you to really put it into practice, because that's how you'll get the most value out of this time together. And then from the bottom of my heart, I sincerely hope that you, in practicing that this week or right away, you meditate and listen. If you're called to do this course, because I would love before 2014, this is that last window before the holidays get really crazy, that you can invest in your own love life. And I would love to mentor you on that journey. And if you're called to go deeper and do that work and and, just come into a whole new field of love in the new year, then I hope you sign up for that class. And either way, I look forward to staying in touch with you. And it's been my pleasure. The most valuable thing that I got from this time together is just feeling so on purpose, like I am connecting deeply with this message, and I'm so grateful that we're in a time when people are ready to hear this and to wake up and to love each other, from a responsible and abundant place. And I just thank you for letting me do my life's work and supporting me so abundantly so I can keep doing these teachings. Big, big, big gratitude. So with that, namaste, and have a beautiful day. Look forward to hearing from you soon.